What is up, creatives? This is Tom. Welcome back to another video. I hope you are all doing well. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas if you celebrate. We are about to close out 2020. What a strange, weird year it's been. But today we are in a Christmas setup, slightly different scenario than we would be usually. I think the audio in here is going to be a little bit more echoey than usual, not totally up to scratch, but I'm still sort of a work in progress on the new look. Hopefully you do like it. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Quite a lot of you might be interested to see a desk tour. As you can see, the desk setup is looking quite nice behind me now. And yeah, I'd be excited to share that with you. I'm waiting for an M1 Mac Mini, which I'm also excited to create some content on. But today, the last video of 2020, I want to sort of wrap up some of the cameras that I've been using here on the channel. I want to talk about the Fuji X-T4, why I've bought that for 2021. And then I've also taken some suggestions from Twitter and also the YouTube community tab for some cameras to sort of talk about why I went for the X-T4 over other options. And some people have sort of been talking about some cameras and thinking about, why did I choose that over maybe like the Canon EOS R6 or the Sony a7S III. So this is going to be a relatively deep dive, slightly nerdy camera chat. I'll do my best to keep it as interesting as possible. But like I said, I do just want to keep this kind of a little bit more of a casual chat than I normally do here on the YouTube channel. But hopefully this will be interesting to you, especially if you are interested in maybe the Fuji system or any of the sort of modern cameras out nowadays, and maybe considering the X-T4 as an option. So I don't have an absolute ton of footage with the X-T4 to sort of show you. This entire video is filmed with the X-T4. It's being filmed in 10-bit 4K 25 frames a second in F-Log, and in my opinion I think this looks amazing, and then this will sort of come on to why I've chosen this camera in a little while. But I did want to shoot the video with the X-T4 to give you guys a really good idea of what the footage can look like. But yeah, really this is just talking about my preferences and why I decided to go with this camera for my usage in 2021 moving forward for professional use. So guys, you know that I've been using the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera for the majority of 2020. It's the professional camera that I used for to start freelancing with, to grow my own sort of video production business. And it's been an amazing camera. I did a video a couple of videos ago on the channel talking about why I decided to sell that camera. So I'm not going to go sort of through it in deep detail. But that sort of holds true. I decided to overall sell the camera just because it wasn't totally right for my workflow. It's an amazing camera. You can get an incredible image out of it. But in my opinion, it was just there's too many nuances that you have to actually do with the camera to help it produce that image. Most notably is like the battery life and rigging it out all the time. It is nice to just have a camera that produces an amazing image right out of the box, and you can just, if you want to, shoot with a lens attached and a battery in the camera. So the X-T4, talking about in a nutshell why I'm excited to use this camera. So there's a few real standout features. First of all is the codecs. Now, the camera is incredibly impressive from a technical standpoint, and actually it's more of a shout out to the X-T3, which for its time was just an unbelievable camera in terms of one, the price, two, the just capability for a camera of that time in this body to record internal 10-bit 420, I believe is the codec available on the camera, and you can just the image quality that you can get out of the camera is just absolutely amazing, and it does it all internally. If you want to upgrade the quality, get a greater level of detail and quality in your footage, you can also shoot external. I think that way you can get 10-bit 422. So the codecs are really robust. You can shoot 400 megabits a second on this camera. The data rates are very, very good, and overall, in my opinion, the picture quality is close to what you can get on the Pocket 4K and the Pocket 6K, albeit the fact that the resolution is slightly smaller than the 6K version of that camera. But overall, for me, the trade-off wasn't quite worth it for the just small upgrade in picture quality, because the Blackmagics do have an amazing look, an amazing sort of cinematic feel, but it wasn't worth all of the sort of hindrances that came with the camera. I was happy to get something that shoots almost as good footage, but without a lot of those problems or challenges that come with shooting with that piece of gear. The next is F-Log, and I actually don't enjoy shooting log all that much on my cameras. For some client projects, I tend not to shoot log because I just want to make sure 100% that I've got the look that I'm sort of like locked down. I do a lot of run and gun shooting, and sometimes the best way to actually ensure that I'm getting the most high quality footage on the day as possible. Like if I'm at a restaurant, I'm in a kitchen, I just need to know that it's going to be looking good straight as a camera, and I'll shoot that in standard picture profile. But actually F-Log on the X-T4 so far is an extremely good picture profile, and I'm actually really happy with how it's coming out every single time I'm throwing it into my editor. Then the next one being IBIS and battery life. So IBIS, the ability to have stabilized footage within the camera, and again the fact that you can also turn it off is super nice, because you know, if you're not wanting the camera to do some sort of stabilization itself and potentially warp or sort of damage your footage, you can just turn it off if you know that you are sort of wanting a particular shot, particular movement. So it basically gives you the best of both worlds. And then the battery life. The battery life was a massive thing for me from the Pocket 4K, is that you just can't trust the internal battery on that camera at all. After sort of the brief YouTube usage I've been doing with the X-T4, I don't think the battery is going to be unbelievable in terms of like my Canon EOS R. Like the battery life on this is just a beast. I can go through just 2 of the Canon batteries on sort of for an entire day of shooting pretty much. So it's fantastic battery life performance on this camera. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a drain, especially if I'm shooting, constant video, continuous video for like a good few hours. But just having the option of shooting on an internal battery instead of external battery source is just super useful. Okay guys, so now I'm going to go through some of the suggestions, some of the cameras which you guys were curious why I actually went with the X-T4 over these sort of other options. And I thought this was just quite a fun idea, sort of take your guys' suggestions, see why I went for the X-T4 over, for instance, the Canon C70. Jacob Randall Holmes says the C70, I realize it's definitely out of the price range here, but I would love to hear you talk about this camera. Like, yep, the C70 definitely would have been a choice if I could have made it, but I think in the UK it's roughly, 1, you can't get hold of them right now, super hard to get hold of, and 2, I think it's probably like £5,000-6,000 dollar equivalent. Like it's an expensive camera, probably an absolutely incredible camera, and that I think will become my camera in the next couple of years. But for now, like this is a really great option. Ishan R says the A7 III. I've actually shot with the A7 III. I shot for 2 years with the A7 III when I was working in-house. I worked for a business creating videos, and it's an amazing camera, but it's been slightly left behind now. And I would also sort of lump the A7C into that category as well. They shoot a predominantly 8-bit video, and really that was sort of a significant sort of really important thing for me on my camera upgrade, is that I just love 10-bit files. I love 10-bit, the look of 10-bit. I just don't think you can get a comparable image quality out of 8-bit files. The EOS R, again, when you shoot in the cropped 4K, actually looks extremely good and sort of gets close to sort of a 10-bit quality in 8-bit, but it's just not there. So yeah, that's why not the A7 III, not the A7C. Javin Lewis says the R5 or the R6. Now this is a good one. The R5 is pretty much just price, and also I have to admit the overheating problems did get to me a little bit, but the R5 is an expensive camera, again, getting to be about £4,000 here in the UK, so over double what I paid for the X-T4. I managed to pick this up for £1,300, so it's a pretty substantial price difference. And then the R6, again, actually is also price. I think if you compare the R6 to the X-T4, they actually get relatively similar in terms of performance. But again, the overheating issues did scare me a little bit. I've sort of heard that the X-T4 has a much better overheating profile, doesn't really happen all that much, and that did sort of spook me a little bit. And then yeah, for sure, the price. The R6 is still about £2,500 here in the UK, and you know, it was just not like, it would have made sense for me to go for the R6 or the R5. So I have the EOS R and then the R5 or the R6 is my like A camera and then B camera, but I'm actually adapting EF glass using a Fringer adapter. So there's not all that much trouble, you know, in terms of like lens compatibility, and hopefully I think I've just got a camera that performs as good as these sort of modern, more modern DSLRs or mirrorlesses from Canon and Sony, but for a fraction of the price, or you know, a bit cheaper. AJ the Alchemist, taking cost into consideration, I'm guessing that the A7S III was out of your budget, and I would totally agree with that. Like, that's sort of in the same category as the R5 for me. The A7S III looks like an unbelievable camera. Like, I was a bit sad that I actually moved from Canon, from Sony to Canon when that was announced, because it just looks like an unbelievable camera, basically. Yeah, you know, like the lens compatibility and the price means that I'm not about to go and sell all my Canon lenses just to move back to Sony just because of that one camera. I don't really think that's the right choice. But because the X-T4 is a crop sensor camera, he's interested to hear why I didn't go for something like the A6400, A6500, A6600. The A6500 was actually my first professional camera ever. An amazing camera, like super portable. I have a cage up here. This is my A6500 cage. I still have it because, you know, it's like an amazing little camera. Who knows, I might get one, but namely because it's just a bit nostalgic. Like I said, my first professional camera. But overall, this comes back to the 10-bit files. Personally, I feel like the footage that you get out of the X-T4 is just in a different league to these slightly cheaper, slightly more sort of like, I would say, prosumer level cameras. And there are tons of like wedding videographers who basically will shoot on an X-T3 and an X-T4, and that's their entire wedding videography kit, because the footage that you can get out of these cameras is so good. All right, now we have some spanners in the works from Twitter. We have John Devo, Gadgets John, suggesting the Panasonic Lumix S5. Now this is a really good question, because I have to admit, I have sort of dipped a little bit on the Panasonic system. I used to shoot with the GH4 really back in the day on my old YouTube channel. There was an amazing camera, and I think from the looks of it, Panasonic are doing some really good things in terms of producing some fantastic cameras. The S5 is supposed to be amazing, and the S1, like the SH1, like unbelievable cameras. And I'll admit that I don't know as much about these cameras as I probably should, doing what I do here on the channel. So if Panasonic, you want to hit me up and send me some cameras to test and try out, that'd be super fun. But I think on the whole, the reason that I actually went with this is due to the adapting of EF glass. And there's also a price thing in here as well. Like the S1, I think, is a little bit more expensive than the X-T4. So there are sort of a few considerations. I think the biggest one for me though is adapting of EF glass. Like the Fringer adapter for the X-T4 is very good. Like, you can get a great image out of it, basically no degradation at all in terms of quality. And that's something which I did have a little bit of a struggle with on the Pocket 4K. And then really the only other thing is, like, the autofocus does work on these adapted lenses. From my last video, it's not totally flawless. There's a bit of hunting. Like, I've set manual focus for this video, for instance. But like I say, on the whole, I think that's the reason that I've actually decided to go for this system over those Panasonic options. There we go, guys. That is some thoughts and feelings on all of these cameras, all of the sort of different camera options for 2021. I hope you have enjoyed this sort of like in slightly more informal chat about cameras, camera systems ready for the new year. Hopefully, if you are looking to buy a camera in the new year, maybe this has sort of expanded your options or helped you a little bit in terms of choosing one. If you do have any questions, thoughts, suggestions, leave them in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of the new setup, and I'll catch you guys next time and next year. See you later.